Hello and welcome. The has defined statement is used to define a constant in a C program. When the C compiler encounters the reference to the constant, it replaces it with its actual value. For instance, the code shown defines the constant named max_len and its value is 16. The constant identifier is used to declare the length of a character array named message. Again, it is used in the for loop construct. During compilation, the identifier max_len is replaced with the value 16 and the code is compiled. Macro is defined in the similar way. A macro in C is a single identifier that identifies expression, statement, or group of statements. Macro sometimes resembles the function. As shown in the code, the macro print_message accepts an argument n which is used as the loop counter in the macro definition. Print_message is a multi-line macro defined by placing the backward slash at the end of each line except the last. This permits a macro to represent a compound statement. When the program is compiled, the reference to the macro is replaced by the statements with the macro definition, and the parameter passed to the macro in its reference replaces the parameter reference in the macro definition. When the code is compiled, the print_message is replaced with the for loop construct and the parameter n used in the macro definition is replaced with parameter index passed to the macro. The macro and constant are replaced with their definition at the pre-processing stage of compilation process. The preprocessor carries out the pre-processing on the C source files and perform three major tasks. 1. It removes the comments in the source file. These can be comments to provide additional information or segment of the code which is no longer required. 2. The preprocessor copies the content of header file included in the C source file using the #include statement. For example, the statement #include delay.h instructs the preprocessor to copy the content of the delay.h file. 3. Preprocessor replaces the macro with its definition. You can use the "-e flag instead of "-c flag to generate the pre-processed file in the command used to generate the object file. The code shows the pre-processed C code for the example discussed. Notice the constants max_len and _baud_9600__ are replaced with their actual values, and the parameterized macro print_message is expanded with its definition. The parameter passed to it is also replaced appropriately. The usage of macro is efficient when a function is called repeatedly in a program. It eliminates the time delay associated with the function call. The use of macro is most advantageous when a few functions are used in a program. For instance, a single function called inside a loop can be appropriate to use macro. However, the savings achieved by the usage of macro depends on the code design and is debatable. On the other hand, if a macro is called several times from the different part of an application, the program may get unreasonably long due to macro expansion. There are other downsides to the usage of macro apart from the potentially increasing the size of executable file. When an argument is passed to macro, the number of arguments is checked, but the data type is not. Thus, usage of macro reduces the error checking at compile time, which may result in subtle bug at runtime. There can be undesired side effect, particularly when macro is used with arguments. For instance, the code shown defines a macro area which takes two arguments, length and breadth, and calculates the area. Now, if the macro is used in the program as shown, it would expand to the expansion which is not intended and leads to wrong result. However, this can be easily rectified by the usage of parentheses around the arguments and in the macro definition too. In my view, macro is a useful feature provided by C language which enhances the readability and maintainability of the code. However, a programmer must be well informed about the advantage and disadvantage of macro usage. He must also take due care to define and use the macro correctly to avoid hard to find bugs in a program. With this, I conclude this lesson. I hope it was an interesting one and happy coding.